What's up, Taiwan? I'm Louise with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's presidential candidates are speaking out against attempts by China to pressure a Taiwanese rock band. Mayday refused requests from Chinese media to voice support for Beijing's claims on Taiwan. That's according to a Reuters report. In response, Chinese officials later threatened to fine the band for lip-syncing during a tour of China. Taiwan's presidential candidates say it's evidence of Beijing's attempts to influence voters ahead of Taiwan's elections. To better understand China's pressure on Mayday, Hughes spoke to Chin-Fu Hung, a professor of political science at National Chung University in Tainan.
As Taiwan's elections are approaching, we've seen reports of a number of tactics from China to interfere. So why Mayday?
This is kind of a soft power that the Chinese authority want to enhance. This kind of soft power is not only about to pressurize the Taiwanese pop singer, but also the influencers on social media, and also the disinformation employed by the Chinese authority. So I guess this is inevitable that they really targeted popular, brand like Mayday because they understand they will create the expected media effects.
How has China used pop culture in the past? Is there a precedence or a pattern of this happening?
I guess this is kind of a united front work that Chinese authority has long used since Taiwan began our own election back to last century. So internally for Chinese authority, they want to strengthen that kind of patriotism that Taiwan is inseparable part of China. But on the other hand, they want to also to set a pop idol model for young Taiwanese youth that, see, your pop singers do love China, and they claim themselves as, or that identify themselves as part of Chinese, Chinese community.
We saw a similar situation during the election in 2016, which involved a young K-pop star who had waved a Taiwanese flag. How does this compare to that?
Of course, for the Chinese authority, they really want to create an impression that not only pop idols, singers, or artists, or businessmen are longing for reunification, and our social media as well as media has repeatedly revealed that this is part of their propaganda work. So I don't believe it is going to work anymore.
That was Hughes speaking with Chin-Fu Hung from Tainan's National Chung University. Beijing, meanwhile, has lashed out at Taiwan's ruling party, accusing the DPP of exaggerating military threats for electoral gain.
民进党当局炒作所谓大陆界选，不过是他们惯用的选举套路，意在挑动对抗，妄图骗取选票。这套老把戏已经被越来越多的台湾民众所识破。
The comments came at a monthly news briefing in Beijing. China has been stepping up its missions near Taiwan ahead of the January 13th presidential vote. Chinese warplanes and vessels have been crossing the median line on a daily basis. Taiwanese officials see the increased military activity as an attempt by China to intimidate voters. As Taiwan's election day nears, people here are looking closely at candidates' policies to decide who to vote for. Here at TaiwanPlus, we're exploring the real issues. There's just about 2 weeks to go, and candidates have been making all sorts of promises. But there's one group that feels left behind. Jennifer Gilalis-Villarus is frustrated at the way migrant workers like her are treated in Taiwan. She's protesting ahead of elections that will decide the country's next president and legislature, hoping something will change.
Because migrant workers cannot vote here, so we're doing the rally to have our voice to listen by the government.
A domestic helper from the Philippines, Villarus, stands with other migrant workers calling for an end to what they see as unfair labour practices and discrimination. And how they're treated here has become an election issue, because tens of thousands more are needed to keep the economy going. Migrant workers make up 3% of Taiwan's population. Coming mostly from Indonesia, the Philippines and Vietnam, they work in factories and the semiconductor industry that powers Taiwan's economy. And they care for the country's growing elderly population. But tens of thousands of migrant workers lose their legal status when they leave an employer, often in search of higher wages or to avoid broker agency fees and poor treatment. Ho Yo-i, the candidate for the main opposition party, the Kuomintang, has proposed an amnesty for them, promising they would not be fined or deported to ease Taiwan's labour shortages. Another opposition candidate, Ko Wen-je, says migrant workers should be able to get a new job within the same industry. But the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's candidate, Vice President Lai Ching-te, is focused more on attracting foreign professionals to help improve Taiwan's competitiveness, mostly Westerners who don't face frequent police checks like workers from Southeast Asia. Observers say whoever wins the election in January, how migrant workers are treated could affect Taiwan's relations with Southeast Asian nations.
It's more important, I think, just from a civil rights perspective for people to be treated well. But yes, it does have a knock-on effect on the image of the country.
Activists aren't holding out much hope for better treatment, but say a democratic society needs to look after all its members.
No matter which parties, they care nothing about the migrant workers issue. So we don't really expect anything from the candidate or the election. If we don't take care of the minority, if we don't pay attention to the rights of the minority, the society won't be at all equally.
A strong economy is a priority for all the presidential candidates. And for that, they need migrant workers to fill the gaps in the workforce. So even without the ability to vote, the voices of those who come to make their living in Taiwan count. That's the end of our series looking at the real issues. You can find the other episodes on the TaiwanPlus website. Join us again next week when we turn our attention to the China factor in Taiwan's elections. On to international news. The US state of Maine has disqualified former President Donald Trump from its 2024 primary ballot. The state's top election official ruled Trump is ineligible because of his role in a January 2021 attack on the US Capitol. Trump's team say they will appeal the decision. Maine is the second state after Colorado to disqualify Trump. The former leader of a Hong Kong pro-independence group says he's fled to the UK and applied for political asylum. Tony Chung spent more than 2.5 years in prison in Hong Kong after being convicted under a national security law imposed by China. He says national security police continue to pressure him to become an informant after his release in June this year. Chung was imprisoned when he was 20. He now says he hopes to continue his studies and contribute to Hong Kong from exile. Police in South Korea have defended their handling of a drug investigation involving late actor Lee Sun-kyun. The 48-year-old, who starred in the Oscar-winning movie Parasite, was found dead in a car on Wednesday. Lee's death followed weeks of intense investigation into alleged drug use. One police interrogation lasted 19 hours. Police say they followed procedure in Lee's case.
고인에 대한 수사는 구체적인 제보 진술과 증거를 바탕으로 법적 절차에 따라 진행하였습니다.
A firefighter has died in the line of duty in Taiwan, the latest in a series of deaths this year. Frustrated by what they see as government inaction, firefighters are calling for justice. Tiffany Wong reports.
Smoke billowing out of an illegal dormitory in the industrial city of Hsinchu in northern Taiwan. Responding to the call, firefighters managed to put out the blaze, but lost one of their own. 29-year-old Brigade Captain You Shanghua had rescued 4 people from the fire before re-entering the building to check for others. When he was found, his mask was removed and oxygen tank empty, with no vital signs, and was pronounced dead at the hospital.
往别的地方去逐室搜寻嘛，那就不知道为什么后来在几分钟后，这笛声在作响，因此我们要启动再搜救的动作，后来就造成这个不幸的这个意外。
Taiwan has seen 44 firefighters die in the last 10 years. This September, in the southern city of Pingtung, a factory which illegally stored flammable materials caught fire, killing 4 firefighters, sparking rallies across the nation for better enforcement of safety regulations. Firefighters held a heartfelt vigil for those 4 fallen comrades and called on the government to do more to protect them, as civil servants risking their lives for others. But firefighters are frustrated by yet another tragedy so soon after, and say that these accidents are preventable as long as safety protocols are enforced and manpower is regulated, measures they're calling to be cemented in law.
不要只是做半套，执政党是认为治安的部分放进消防法就可以了，但是呢，这不是基层想要的。基层想要的是全面适用治安法，或者是你至少让我在公务人员的保障法里面有治安的相关条文。
With these protections, firefighters hope to reduce the risks they face on a daily basis and prevent any more tragedies from occurring in the line of duty. Eason Chen and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Masked palm civets are popping up more in Taiwan's cities. Now a university project is taking the opportunity to study the animals more closely. Bryn Thomas has the story.
From the forests to the concrete jungles of Taiwan's north, masked palm civets are increasingly taking up residence in the big city. People in Taiwan have posted pictures online of a small tree-dwelling mammal carrying their young, showing that, for the moment, they're here to stay. Their increasing numbers have inspired a team from National Taiwan University to learn more about these furry new neighbors.
各种你想象得到的地方，它都可能在，像是沟渠里面，然后变电箱、建筑物的天花板夹层，然后甚至是树洞，这些地方其实他们都会住。
Masked palm civets used to be endangered in Taiwan, but they were taken off the list in 2019 after successful conservation efforts. Now that they're back, researchers are taking the opportunity to study them. They've set up tracking programs and cameras, and are using social media to collect data from the public.
当大家看到，不管他是死掉的或者是活着的，你看他在哪里出现回报，这样子的资讯其实可以协助我们知道说白鼻星可能会在什么季节会不会带小孩，或者是他在什么时候出现在什么样的地方。
They're hoping to nip a potential problem in the bud. Having civets and civic spaces could endanger the animals and pose a health risk for humans. On one hand, 20 years ago, the masked palm civet was initially blamed as a possible source of the deadly SARS outbreak. On the other hand, civets often get killed crossing the streets and fall prey to both angry landlords and stray dogs.
尤其是在我们的就是流浪犬猫的管理还没有很完善的情况之下，这种状况其实就会造成可能会有一些疫病的传播这样。
The researchers want to understand patterns in civet behavior, to protect them and develop policies for managing them. While most people are happy to see masked palm civets popping up near their homes, researchers hope they'll help look after the newcomers doing their civet duty. Scott Huang and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, it's cold out there, so here are some animals in the snow at a zoo in Finland. I'm Louise Watt. Take care. We'll see you next time.